Good morning, everybody. Good to see you again. That meditation today was just lovely. I could feel the entire room just sinking down into the gap for a little private time with the Spirit. It's beautiful, beautiful. Infinity plus one, huh? So there's a story behind this title. My beloved and I, we have a little fun every now and then where I say, I love you. She says, I love you more. I say, I love you to infinity. She says, I love you to infinity plus one. And that's when I go, huh? There is no infinity plus one. She says, well, it is for me. And that's how much I love you. So I thought I would work with this for today because I'm actually doing, it's February, it's the love month, all that kind of stuff. And I guess it must be in the house because I also felt this desire to talk about inclusion, inclusivity today, but also to break down the elements of love a little bit as we talk about it for the entire month. And so breaking it down into today, oneness, inclusion. Also, there's the idea of forgiveness and givingness. And one of the most important parts of it, I think, is receiving, because it's so hard for sometimes to receive the love, right? But let's start with the inclusion part and start with just the whole month anyway. And thank you, Betsy, for the Dr. King reading. Right? It was absolutely fantastic and one of my favorite parts that you pulled out. And for the update. I'm sure that if he ever do the speech again today, he would have women in it. And this is that season for nonviolence. The 64 days. It begins with the it's really interesting. Well, of course, nonviolence, because we're trying to say that this didn't need to happen, that we didn't need to lose these two gentlemen that we lost, Gandhi on the 30th of January and then Dr. King on the 4th of April. So that's the span of those 64 days that's been celebrated in over 900 cities and 67 countries since 1998. It's a relatively new occurrence. If you want to know more about this activity that's taking place all over the country and all over the world, you can go to agnt.org. And on that website, they have all kinds of history. They have videos that you can listen to and talks you can listen to and activities and questions that you can involve yourself with at the dinner table if you want to have your own Shabbat dinner and bring and have a conversation. That's a great place to do that, and that's a great place to get some questions around it. And, of course, here locally, we are having the Power of Prayer, the Power of Peace Prayer Circle with Reverend Johanna, 7:30, beginning tomorrow night. 7:30 at night. Well, we have to say that because we come at 7:10 in the morning on Tuesday morning for poetry. So for the next 8 weeks, 10 weeks? 10 weeks. For the next 10 weeks, I think Johanna's going to have a cot and we'll be sleeping here because she's Monday night and then back for Tuesday morning, all right, for poetry. Well, and then poetry's blowing up, isn't it? But this nonviolence, it's incredible. And it's something that I feel close to, and Dr. Holmes felt close to. He wrote a number of prayers for peace. He used to have these greeting cards, and he wrote a world peace prayer on the greeting card. And I think the Science Mind Archives is talking about putting those greeting cards back into circulation. Yeah, and he also put one in the magazine. And one of the things he said in this world peace prayer, is that because the divine mind has created us all, we are bound together in one infinite and perfect unity. We are within this. I actually had that this morning in my morning prayer, my morning meditations before I left the house. I was feeling the sensation of knowing that I am loved by the divine, and it's loving within me and through me, but I'm also embraced by that which is loving me. So I felt this entire unity experience in that idea. And that's part of what the idea of inclusion and oneness is all about. But the problem is that we're busy seeking separation all the time, even down to how we dress. You go out, and it particularly strikes our female portion more than our male portion, but it's beginning to happen to men too. If you dress up really nicely and you go to a party and you look across the room and there's a woman wearing your exact same dress, right? Am I just being a man right here, or is that something like right? For me, it's if I see somebody's pant leg go up and they're wearing my socks, like because I want to be separate. I want to be individualized. Spirit wants me to be individualized. It didn't create two Steve Rambos. It's just the one Stephen Rambo, you know? Well, actually, there is another Stephen Rambo. He runs a jewelry shop in Boise, Idaho. And is there one in Albuquerque? Well, he's got one in Boise, Idaho, and friends that would travel there would always send me a picture of Steve Rambo Jewelers. So I called him one day, and he goes, "Oh, I've been wanting to meet you." It was really pretty cool because he'd heard about me as well. But he sells jewelry. I sell God. Different things altogether. Both gems. Spoken from a poet. Just like a poet. That's so beautiful. That's right, you know. And in thinking about this idea of separation and this idea of trying to prove our separateness, we are unlike any of the other creations of the divine. You know, we're totally unlike any of the others. A rose does not do rose. It's being a rose all the time, and whether you are there or not, it's showing and shining its beauty. Whether you are there to smell its fragrance, it is giving up its fragrance. The same thing is if it's a star, if it's shining its light, it's reflecting the light of the universe back down for us to see millions and trillions of years apart from the time it first received that light. So it's held it and has given it away for eternity, it seems, you know. And a cat is always busy being a cat. You know, you cannot call a cat and expect it to come unless it just feels like it. It's expressing its catness all the time. A child is always expressing its curiosity and its wonder and its divine love, right? But the adult human, you know, we do not let our light shine sometimes because we take on what's been told about us for so many years. We hold back, and it's one of the things that David Hawkins talks about in his book Power versus Force. He says that the irony of the human experience is in how fiercely the ego fights to preserve the illusion of a separate and individual I. We battle for that. I am this, even if it's all the warts and everything. I am this. If you're defining your limitations and holding on to those limitations, and I'll be darned if you're going to take those away from me. This is going to hold me back, and I'm going to hold back that way forever. You know, you're just determined to do that stuff. And it's the eye and the ear and the palate and the nose that's holding us, and the skin that's taking in all of these inputs and holding them and defining them to be this, the ego that says, this is I, the separate myself. I'm all here. Stake a flag right in my toe. I claim this land as Stephen Rambo, you know? And the thing that that wonderful philosopher, was it the Great Eagle or White Eagle? What is it? White Eagle? Which I had always thought, I'd been reading these White Eagle books. I got these little thin White Eagle books, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool, man. I wonder what tribe, what native people, what indigenous people White Eagle is from. Do you guys know who White Eagle is? White Eagle is kind of like an Abraham, kind of like a Seth. He's a channeler of multiple entities. What a learning experience that was for me. His tribe is too big for me to even try to understand. But his words, or their words, I should say, because it's multiple entities, are so powerful. What he says is, if you want to get a clear picture of any condition in life, don't try to see them with your nose on them. Right? If you really want to see what's going on, get up to 80,000 feet, 30,000 feet. Take the wider view. That's why we talk about going up to the mountaintop to see what's the higher idea, so we can recognize that we need to move away from business as usual. And I'm talking about inclusion here. This is going to all work together in the end, is my hope. But the idea is that if we want to achieve a world where there is no violence, a nonviolent world, then we have to break the bonds of business as usual. We need to start seeing things anew. And one of the ways to do that is to start seeing things from a higher perspective. How many of us are watching things just like this? There's my nose. There's the screen. I'm watching the screen. I'm not looking around and seeing what else is out there and available for me to see and for me to do. So I can, for myself to see the clearness, wholeness, and see it clearly, I need to step back And if I can see the condition, I can change the condition. See, what I don't want to do is experience, I was reading, what am I reading this week? I must have read about 6 different books tonight, so I don't know which one this was in. Yeah. It was in, Colin, where are you? Second Coming of Christ. It was in the Second Coming of Christ, the Paramahansa Yogananda book that I've been reading about. He was talking about the Gautama's story and the Buddha's story and being in the palace and how sanitized the palace experience was. Right? And in order to get the higher view, the clear view, to see how to lead us away from suffering, he had to go out into the street among the commons, among the everyday people, to see what life was really all about. And they made this parallel that it just, between the mall, the shopping mall, and the common area. And we were at the Reagan Library, and what was the exhibit that we saw at the Reagan Library? Pompeii. And one of the things about the Pompeii exhibit was that the towns all had this common area where everybody showed up. The priest was in the common area, the meat seller was in the common area, the cheese seller was in the common area, the herb seller was in the common area. Everything was in the common area, so all people got to see that they were living in this wholeness, in this unity experience. It wasn't sanitized. It wasn't like the mall experience. You go to the mall, everything is so pristine and so nice and just so pretty and so perfect, but that's not the way life really is. And so sometimes we need to get down into the common experience the way the Buddha did, and then we can see what's further out there. We can recognize our fundamental interconnectedness when we're living in the commons, and from that experience we can shift and make the change to create a better life. Because see, what the Dalai Lama talks about in the new ethics of the millennial age is that we need to understand that my interest, right, and your interest are intimately connected. In fact, he says, in a deep sense, they actually converge. Our interests converge. And how could they not if we're living in infinity? There's nothing else. There's no boundary outside of that. So we're all contained within the same thing, yet we think we're walking around as separate from it. And that's why Dr. Holmes was very careful in saying that we're not individuals, we're individualized. We have individualized that only presence that is. We've taken a little piece of it, but not all of it, and taken our journey with it. But it's still converging in the one, it's still connected to the one, it's still a part of the one. And so as we understand that, then when we see the other, we don't recognize them as the other, but we recognize them as another. And in the seeing that they are another, they're no longer apart from us, they are a part of us. There's so much of us and them in our society today, and if we're going to really practice this month of love, this month of nonviolence, this month of looking at the history of a peoples that were brought here against their will, that then built this country and then fought for this country and then grew this country to be the powerhouse it is, the economy of this nation built on the back of black people, you know? If we're going to get that and really recognize that interconnectedness, recognize that convergence, it's going to begin by taking our nose out of our crap and looking up and seeing what's possible for us. And not just seeing what's possible, but moving into living in that possibility. Living in a way that everything converges together. All of it does. What we call sacred and secular converge together. They're apart. Joy and pain match together. Sadness and suffering. Peace and tears. How many times have you seen a peaceful scene that was so heart-moving that it brought you to tears? They're the same tears, but the emotion is on the other side. We have the ability to bring that emotion out all the time. And that kind of experience supports our growth. And if we don't have that kind of growth, we begin to wither. As a society, we begin to wither when we start separating and building walls around our homes. You know, forget the other politics. When you hear wall, you start thinking about other things. But forget that for a minute. Just think about, and it's particularly something that I see happening more and more in LA. The hedges are getting taller, the gates are getting bigger, and the distance between neighbors is getting farther, you know? So I love Simi Valley. We don't have as much of that. A little bit, but not as much of that. We need to break those kind of barriers down. At least if you take your nose up and lift and look over the wall. Like, what was that show where the guy was Tim Allen, you know? So I was talking to the neighbor on the side. Home Improvement, right? Wilson, right, you know? Let's get up and find out what's happening on the other side of the wall. Inclusivity is the key to it. Inclusivity is the key to this process. Bringing everybody in. If you have a neighbor that you just see go in and out real fast, take a moment on that quick flash and give a wave, give a hi. Say hello. Find out what their names are. How many of you know 3 neighbors' names and phone numbers? Awesome. All right, then double that. Triple that if you can, you know? And the really sweet thing is, because we are individualized experiences, individualized expressions of the divine, there really is no one way to practice this thing called inclusivity. Perhaps there's one way. There's Spirit's way. There's Spirit's way. And Spirit is inside each and every one of us. I found this poem from Rumi that I think really speaks to this idea of Spirit's way unforming. He says, not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I am not from the east or the west, not out of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist. I am not an entity in this world of the next or the next. Did not descend from Adam or Eve or any origin story. My place is placeless, a trace of the traceless, neither body or soul. I belong to the beloved, have seen the 2 worlds as one, and that one call to and know, first, last, outer, inner, only that breath-breathing human being. That's all we are, a divine, breath-breathing human being. And when we can come from that perspective, it's so easy to include the other and to bring them in and break down those barriers of fear and judgment that tell them they're not the same. Not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I am not from the east or the west, not out of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist. I am not an entity in this world or the next, did not descend from Adam or Eve or any origin story. And this is you, Rumi's talking about. My place is placeless, a trace of the traceless, neither body or soul. I belong to the beloved. You belong to the beloved. How sweet is that? Have seen the 2 worlds as one, and that one call to and know, first, last, outer, inner. I am only that breath-breathing human being. That's all. That's what we get to do. That's our call. That's what we get to break through. See, we have the solution. We have the solution to all the ills of the world today. It's love, and in our teaching, it's prayer. And science has proven it. Science has proven that love works. Science has proven that prayer works. You can go to Duke University Center for Religion and call up the reports. They'll tell you about it. Read what is the Words That Heal? Not Words That Heal. I'll bring the books in next time. I got them in my head, but I can't pull them up right now. Which is a very Dr. Holmesian thing. I'm so proud to have that moment. He said, don't quote me, because I quote it wrong all the time. See, we are here to evolve our consciousness to a new level. And when we evolve our consciousness, we become effective change agents. We become reliable, and we move into lasting effective change from that evolved consciousness. And that evolved consciousness is understanding that a love thought is the most powerful thought of all. The most powerful thought of all. As we discover the links that we all have with one another, we become more balanced. Our life and our joys become deeper, more exciting. Our faith deepens, our values deepen, we become more powerful and more authentic in our lives. Our actions become stronger. We begin to see miracles everywhere. These miracles are a product of feeling unified, of living in oneness, of including everyone. My dear friend Linda McNamara says in her book, living our lives as if everything around us is evidence of miracles permits us to live in an enchanted world, a world full of love. Can you move it to the next one for me, Dominic?
Yeah, I did. Remember the last one?
No, next one.
Oh, next one.
Yeah, I skipped that one. You're right. Living our lives as if everything around us is evidence of miracles permits us to live in an enchanted world, a world full of love. Begin to see the miracles everywhere. And I'd like for you to start tomorrow morning, or maybe later today, because you should do this twice a day, when you go to brush your teeth. Look yourself in the eye, not in the teeth. You are the miracle of the divine, being called forth to make this action, to make this change. And this is a great month to begin, right? Spring is right around the corner. All right. So, be a part of Infinity +1. So it is. Thank you for the candle.
You're welcome.
Here we are. I am a vital part of the infinite whole, and my way of being makes this true for all. Mm-hmm. It's our healing time. Time for some prayer. We did some hints about it. Wednesdays are going to be shifting beginning in March. So be on the alert for that. Come to the annual meeting and find out all the details. We'll be talking about it on the 24th. We're revamping Wednesday nights, so I think it'll be a lovely experience for all of us. Okay? But for now, we're going to go into prayer. If there is a condition in your life, in the life of someone you know, that you'd like to bring into this healing moment and allow the infinite power of the divine to step into expression on your behalf or on the behalf of that person, I invite you to bring a vibratory experience, because vibration and the waves of vibration, even in the earliest, when the earliest waves began, the cosmic waves, in the dips of the waves, all the molecules began to spin around until they coalesced and became the planets and everything that became matter. So our voice in vibration is part of a quantum healing field. So when you say it, I'm not just asking you to say it so you can have a bunch of names in the room. I'm asking you to say it out loud to engage that non-local domain, that quantum field, which is part of the proven activity of prayer working, right? So let's do that now on behalf of anyone that you want to bring into prayer. Being fully present to the divine in this moment, I call it a glorious moment. To recognize the one power and the one presence that is celebrated and expressed as love, that outpictures through a law that brings form to this vibration that I'm speaking about, to this vibration that I'm making on behalf of each and every one of us here. I join together as one. Just like the great white eagle, we are multiple voices, individualized expressions of the one, vibrating in unison as we bring about the good for all those that we spoke of in this moment. We allow the law of the divine to bring right action and perfect healing, perfect employment, the end of sadness and suffering, the bridging of grief and sadness, the expression of forgiveness, the right employment, the experience of prosperity and abundance overflowing, pressed down and flowing out. The nurturing of our environment by each and every one of us. The ending of wars. the quelling of violence, the loving of children, the feeding of all, the caring for all, the education of all. For two sides standing as one, not apart from each other, but together, in unison, working for good, for the betterment of humankind. This is the time. This is the place. We are the ones releasing this word into the law with a grateful heart. And so it is.
So it is.